Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. So glad you're here today. One of the biggest things that I want you to think about and consider as we dive into this episode, where I'm going to discuss Saturn and Aries, which is a big deal, a big transit, and generates tremendous new opportunities for maturity, learning, and growth through a whole new lens. I will discuss the ins and outs of that. But one of the things that I want to encourage you all to think about and feel as you listen to this episode is really beginning to remember who you are. I think the greatest message and energy transmission with Saturn in Aries is coming back to your mighty I am. And it's going to take work because Saturn is about maturity, responsibility, work. And most of us, when we think of Saturn in the sky, we go, oh, Saturn. But I mean, it's like, okay, let's do the work because I know when I do the work or I show up, however that work appears, whether it's healing or it is engaging and growing, the work feels good. The action around the work, the satisfaction of showing up responsibly, I feel something in that. And Aries, Aries is the initiator of the zodiac. It's the number one sign. So this next couple of years is an initiation process. We've been going through a death and a disillusion of sorts. This is an initiation. So, first and foremost, let me go through the key dates so you have a little bit of a roadmap with Saturn and Aries. Saturn will enter Aries on May 24th, 2025. So it'll be at the 0 point of Aries. That the 0 point is important. Okay. And I'll dive into that a little bit. Saturn will retrograde on July 13th at 3 degrees of Aries. So Saturn will be in Aries for the first 3 degrees through July 13th. Then it will retrograde on the 13th and it'll go back through those 3 degrees. And on September 1st, Saturn will be back at 0 degrees of Aries and then moving backwards, backing up into Pisces, where we're going to relearn some lessons, recalibrate, reorient, and it will be in Pisces for a while until 2026. Saturn will station direct November 15th of 2025 at 27 degrees of Pisces. Then once it starts moving direct, after we get into 2026, Saturn will re-enter Aries again. There's that 0 point on February 13th. And one more date that's important, Saturn will not clear that 3 degrees again until mid-May of 2026. So between the end of May 2025 and May 2026, it's like Saturn is entering new territory with Aries, and it's going to give us a flavor and a taste. And then it's going to retrograde, which means an internal rewiring for a bit in Aries, a review, a reflection. It'll back up into Pisces, and then it will station direct. And in 2026, it will move back into Aries on February 13th. But it will not cross over the 3 degrees and be in new territory until mid-May of 2026. So that's the roadmap. And if I were you, and what I will do, and I already kind of know in my head, is I would put in your calendar those dates, like an alert, just so you are aware of the time, the energy. It brings to conscious awareness these motions of Saturn, and especially these 0 points, May 24th, 2025, September 1st, 2025, and then February 13th, 2026, the 0 degree of Aries. Because the 0 degree of Aries, the beginning of the zodiac, is the quantum point, the initiator point, the cosmic forces colliding point. It's a frequency, it's a vibe, it's an opportunity to really become aware. And Saturn will be in that 0 degrees for a little bit because it's not moving real fast. Saturn doesn't move fast. So you get a handful of days at the 0 point. And in those first few, what we call minutes in astrology, which are really like days with Saturn, but you get that energy. So those are key dates to recognize. One of the first things I love and suggest that you all reflect on is Saturn in Pisces. Saturn entered Pisces March of 2023. Early March. I think it was like March 7th, somewhere right in that date. So beginning of March, Saturn entered Pisces. Saturn in Pisces was confusing, is confusing because Pisces is about dissolving. It's watery. It's the collective. It's not tangible. Saturn loves tangibility. Saturn has been uncomfortable in Pisces. It's been creating disillusion, disorientation, lack of clarity. And if you remember back, one of the things that really came to me and I recognized was, Amanda, surrender to the mystery. Surrender to the mystery. That's that's Saturn in Aries, but Saturn, I mean in Pisces, excuse me, but Saturn in any sign says surrender to the mystery, but do the work. Like it wants you to take action, do something tangible. So in Pisces, surrendering denotes doing nothing. And so it's been confusing. So I would start this journey in reflection of what you have learned, what has shifted, evolved, and confronted you personally and spiritually since March of 2023. Where have you shifted? Where have you grown, changed, or evolved? Start there because you're starting with the conclusion. Pisces is the conclusion. It's the last sign of the zodiac. So you want to start at what you've been dissolving, healing, cleansing. And Saturn in Pisces has been about spiritual discipline. Saturn is about discipline and maturity, action and responsibility, diligence. And in Pisces, Pisces is very creative, spiritual, ideal. And this has given us a beautiful opportunity to create new spiritual awakening, awareness, and practice through a lot of discomfort. It's been uncomfortable. And we have all felt that. And there are moments and seasons and times where it's been more uncomfortable the last 2.5 years than other times. Reflect on that and step back and say, what have I learned through this? Where have I matured spiritually? And to me, it's really where have I evolved? Think about that. Reflect on that as you start, as you begin to initiate and pioneer. All right. The last time Saturn was in Aries was 1996. Saturn entered Aries April of 1996. And it was in Aries until about 1998, 1999. It kind of did some back and forth in Taurus a little bit. But from 96 to end of 98, early 99, that's when, really 98, is when Saturn was in Aries. So another starting point, your next action step here is to reflect back to 96 through 97, 98 arbitrarily, that kind of time frame. And listen, if you're listening to this and you're born in 1994, obviously you're like, well, I was really little. I don't really remember, or I can't pinpoint that, or I can't tie those energies together. That's cool. Just know, have the data. Know that that's the last time this was happening. This energy field was introduced and we were getting this kind of initiation. This is a brand new 28, 29, 30-year cycle. That's how long it takes Saturn to go through all of the signs of the zodiac. And the signs of the zodiac are our full psychology and self. They are the whole person of who we are. Every sign in the zodiac touches a part of our humanness, our soul, our psyche. So Saturn has done this whole revolution, and it is now coming back to the 0 point, the initiator point. So you can think of this as a new 30-year cycle. And yes, I could reference your personal Saturn return, where Saturn returns to the point in the sky where it was at the time of your birth. That's your Saturn return that usually happens around 27, 28, 29. It happens again closer to 60. It's 30-year cycles. But this is the cosmic reset for all of us. It's a new 29, 30-year cycle. So it's paramount. It's a great time to really and truly get grounded and oriented. And Aries isn't about being grounded. So it's kind of strange that I use that as a way to start this, but getting very grounded within yourself as we enter this cycle, because Aries is the mighty I am. Aries is about primal life force energy, vitality, instinct, individuality. It's courageous, it's bold, it is aggressive, it's passionate, desirous. It's fire. It is primal fire. And I hope this sounds exhilarating and exciting to you, something to rekindle. We are not just rekindling our primal vitality and life force energy, we are getting back in touch with something we have forgotten or lost. And it's exciting. Is it going to challenge us? Yes, it's going to challenge us in a multitude of ways, but I'm here for it. We're here for it. Whenever Saturn or any of the big planets or any of the closer in planets for that, for all intents and purposes, when they enter a new sign, I'm always thinking, okay, what am I learning the next 3 weeks? Or what am I learning the next 3 years? Or if it's Pluto, the next 20 years, if it's Neptune, the next 13 or 15 years. Uranus. I mean, we can look at all of these junctures of pieces to our evolution. This one just happens to be very poignant because whatever Saturn touches, it matures. It calls to action and says it's time to be responsible, take responsibility for yourself and do the work. And in Aries, Aries is about yourself, your I am. What can I do? What is my responsibility? How do I take action? A few months ago, I was listening to something with Stephen Forrest, my favorite astrologer, and he was touching on Saturn and Aries, and he said something that just a light bulb moment clicked. And I'm going to share this with you all because Aries is so passionate and determined in a multitude of ways, but in this very sometimes reactive versus responsive way because it is so instinctual. And there's a boldness to Aries. And what he said was, Saturn in Aries and this era of fire, because remember, Neptune is also in Aries, and we will have conjunctions of Saturn and Neptune. I will speak to that on a different podcast because I don't want to cloud it too much. I want to focus on Saturn in Aries, but we've got a lot of primal fire energy. But what he said is Saturn in Aries is not about fearlessness. It's about facing your fears. So this energy is not about recklessness, fearlessness, reactiveness, sheer willpower for the sake of willpower. It is about facing what you are afraid of and maximizing it. And the only person who can do that is you. It's not about putting the responsibility, the burden, or the blame on anything external, people, experiences, circumstances. It is owning your own destiny, your own light, your own divinity, and expressing it through action out in the world. Saturn says, take responsible, mature action. And Aries says, I want it. I want it now. I got to get it done. And I got to do 10 more things. I've got to be moving and shaking. So there's an anxiety that also will arise differently with Saturn in Aries versus Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces, a lot of us have experienced various forms of anxiety, discomfort, dis-ease. It's a little bit more private, elusive, internal, feeling oriented. In Aries, with Saturn in Aries, the anxiety is going to feel more visceral. The urgency, the reactiveness is going to feel, I have to do something now. I have to get it done now. So it's going to create tremendous impatience at times. And the patience and the fortitude is important, and not buying into the reactiveness or the urgency. It's really more about responding. And I think about removing force. That has been a mantra alongside of surrender to the mystery. A lot of my thought process and awareness is, Amanda, are you applying force or are you in the field, in the flow, removing force and being, living, showing up in real time? And it's taken me a little bit to really discern that for myself. What does force look like to you? What does force look like to you today? When are you pushing and striving and in that state of will that is just trying, I'm going to use that word, to make stuff happen? That's the application of force. The trick to Saturn and Aries is the removal of that agitation, that urgency, the force, and the sheer will to live, the will to be, the courage to be. There's a book called The Courage to Be. And when I was graduating from college, I had to take a practicum where I went to school, Sewanee, the University of the South. Everyone has to test out of their subjects, and we take a practicum. And my practicum, which is like a 2-day exam, and it's a long exam, so you test out of whatever your major is. The big essay I had to write was on a book called The Courage to Be. And this book is it's what it makes me think of the courage to just be. And there's nothing just about being, but the courage to be. That's the theme with Saturn in Aries. And when the fear shows up, being able to recognize it and face it. So naming your fears as we initiate and step into this new portal of energy, knowing what you're truly fundamentally afraid of. I was on the phone this morning with a client who blows my mind, 23-year-old guy. And I asked him what he was afraid of. And he very clearly said, I'm afraid of failure. And he didn't hesitate. He just was direct and honest. It's one of the things that I admire and respect most in him. Anytime I ask a question, he honestly answers clearly, and he tells the truth. A lot of us are afraid of failure. Some of us are afraid of success. Some of us are afraid of not having or being loved. So some of us are afraid of death. Some of us are afraid of living forever. What are your primal one or two fears? Identify that now. Get honest and become totally open to whatever your primal fear or fears are at this point in time. Because that right there is your lesson plan ahead. That's your lesson plan for the next couple of years. That is what we are doing. What Saturn is gifting us is to really be able to look our fears or fear in the face and alchemize it through our curiosity, our creativity, our actions, our boldness, and through the courage to be. This is an exciting time. And yes, it will be cloaked and veiled in a new set of circumstance and challenges, drastically different from this last couple of years in Pisces. The Piscean energy, and I want to go back to this for a moment, felt so cloudy and disorienting. There's not much that's cloudy about Aries. It just is. It just does. It takes action, whether the action is right or wrong. That's what we love. I love about Aries energy is they take action. And if it's wrong, they autocorrect. They redo it. They do it again. And they don't hold all the emotional mess in their bodies the way that's the more watery energies do. And we all know what emotional whiplash feels like. Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, and all these Pisces transits we have had, Neptune in Pisces, has given us a lot of like emotional and consternation. I call it emotional whiplash. It's like when you say, no, I can't do that today. And instead of just saying no, setting your boundary and walking away and going and doing what you do have on your plate or you can do or you want to do, then you feel guilty or ashamed or worried. That's the whiplash that we have felt in a tremendous volume turned up way with Saturn and Pisces, the emotional residue. In Aries, it's truly more about doing and learning through doing, learning through experience, learning through playing the game, learning by engaging. So isolation and really relying on the voice in your head or just the presence of your own company will not offer solutions. Yes, is your spiritual time, your quiet, your solitude, your time out in nature imperative? Absolutely. But in with this Aries energy coming in, it's asking us to be bold. It's trial by fire, trial by living, trial by engaging, trial by practicing, interacting, being out in the world. And if you mess up, if you don't do it right, then you get up and you redo it. You reorient, you learn quickly. I think there's a beauty to Saturn and Aries with resilience and getting up, back up again and trying again, doing it again. And that determination can go over the top, the hustle, the grind, the do. So it's finding balance. What did you learn in Saturn and Pisces? Okay, sometimes I just got to surrender. I've got to ask my guides and angels for help. I need wise counsel right now. I need to get out of my head and into my heart. That's what Saturn in Pisces was showing us. Get out of your head and into your heart. And it's been an uncomfortable and a magical, mythical, exotic journey into the heart in some of the deepest, most transformative and penetrating ways I have experienced. Now it's about taking the show on the road. And not that you've been dormant or not engaging or doing, but that's the mythos of this. We're in epic, mythic times. Make it mythic. Be the hero of your own story. Come back to your I am. One other thing I want to highlight that is important with Saturn and Aries is there can be a deep sense of aloneness, not loneliness. Okay. Loneliness is separation, separate from. Aloneness is how Saturn and Aries can feel and be. That is the experience of it. You are not alone, yet you feel deeply responsible for your own attitudes, actions, and decisions. No one else can make decisions for you. You are responsible for your attitude, action, and decisions. I am responsible. We are responsible. I can reach out and ask for support, gain more clarity, insight, data, but ultimately the buck stops within. And this is about a reclamation of the divine within, the primal life force divinity within. So that aloneness, I definitely want you to recognize or discern between loneliness and feeling alone. It's kind of like a stranger in a strange land. That's a little bit of what Saturn in Aries may feel like is a stranger in a strange land. You're reborn. You're born through the fire, and it's a time of taking where you've reoriented and starting to move in a new direction, an evolved direction. So is it gonna be easy? No. But I would be so bored if everything was just easy. Although I do jump into that adage and mantra of easy is right, meaning if it feels aligned and healthy and easy in my body, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. But this is about really putting on a new kind of armor. And the armor is one of our beingness. Human being versus human doing. Yet, with Saturn and Aries, I'm a human being. And what is my responsibility to that? How do I take action? How do I show up? I am excited for all of us in this transit. I am excited for the sovereignty that it is going to engage and awaken within and around us, a sense of newness, a newfound spark and vitality. And it's being able to find a new flow through engagement and interaction, even when there's a sense of solidarity or aloneness, because what that is deeper is sovereignty, a sense of wholeness in your oneness. So it's an exciting transit. And of course, with its nuances, it's going to give us a whole new drop down menu of lessons and opportunities through those lessons to grow and to evolve. Be brave. Be brave for what you know that you are. My whole intention behind the work that I get to do, this podcast, is helping you to remember who you are. I can show up and offer you insights and information and tools and techniques and resources, and I can give you all of that. But ultimately, it's what you do with it. And this is about you remembering who you are, remembering your frequency, and taking it out into the world. So embrace this new adventure and go back and write down those dates, because the dates are very key to remember that Saturn will retrograde, but it will back up into Pisces at the end of the year through February. So November through February of 2026. So we're going to get to revisit some watery, uncertain, emotional fogginess and muck. But that is a beautiful time because we will have gotten some newness, some new insights, some new courage, some new motivation and direction. And it's going to challenge us, but it's going to push us. It's going to break us open in new ways. And then we get to go back and deal with the emotional stuff that comes with it. Not that you don't deal with emotional stuff now or feel and process, but that's kind of what this time frame looks like. So remember, between May of 2025 and May of 2026, this is a critical, crucial, energetic portal and gateway. And Neptune, who is already in Aries, is kind of making the same transit with Saturn. It's in Aries now, but Neptune's going to retrograde and it's going to retrograde back into Pisces. And then they're both going to be moving direct, and they're going to be moving direct in Aries together, and they're going to conjunct. Neptune and Pisces are going to come together. And that's another layer. We're not there yet. But once Saturn enters Aries, it is joining Neptune, and they're just a few degrees away. They're just a few degrees away. So they're not perfectly conjunct. They're in a few degrees of what we call orb. So they're already starting to communicate. Neptune dissolves, Saturn brings structure. To me, this is the human and the divine coming together, your human self and your higher self. So this year ahead, between May of 2025 and May of 2026, we are bringing our higher consciousness into our human consciousness and evolving it for something magnificent. And it's going to take some muscle. It's going to take some work. And it really is going to take fortitude and strength and courage, but the ability to name and face fears in order to alchemize them. And we're in this together. We get to do this and explore this together. But ultimately, each of us is responsible for our own I am, our own self, our own evolutionary path forward. No one can do it for us. We get to choose how we show up. And this is going to be about a series of choices. The choices we make, and if we choose to show up in our highest light and integrity, or if we're taking the easy way out, or the coward's way, or the denial, the dishonesty, the corruption, all of that is going to be brought to the surface. And I'll close in saying this. It reminds me of Which Wolf Do You Feed? That story of, you've got two wolves. You've got this white wolf about light and love, and then you've got this dark wolf. Which wolf are you feeding? Aries is going to test us through our actions and our interactions are we feeding the light, or are we stuck in the darkness? And the darkness is necessary for the light to be brighter. So the fear, facing the fear, and then what do we get to do with it? So this is an epic, mythic transit. We are here for it, and I am eager to see what buds within me and within you. Thank you all for joining me. Be well.